Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Michael McDonough. I am the Executive Director of Marketing and Communications here at Catholic Charities New Hampshire. And welcome to our first installment of CCNH Inside Look. This is a brand new series where you will have an inside look into our programs and services that are paving a better pathway forward for individuals and families across New Hampshire. And we are thrilled today to be able to start this program with our newest program, New Generation, which joined the Catholic Charities family just last month. I will let Elsie go into it a bit more, but this is really an incredible program that's serving a niche need here in New Hampshire, being pregnant women, as well as single mothers and their children who are facing homelessness due to a variety of life issues. New Generation is their safe haven and guide to get back on their feet and really move their lives forward. So without much ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Elsie Cipriani, who is awesome. She's the Executive Director of New Generation, and she will give a brief overview and answer any questions that you may have. As a reminder, if you have questions, they are definitely encouraged. Feel free to type them into the chat and we will address those in a bit. So with that said, Elsie, the floor is yours. Tell us all about New Generation.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that introduction. I really appreciate it. And we are also thrilled, not just to be here, but to be part of the big family and caring family that is Catholic Charities of New Hampshire. So good afternoon, everyone. As I said, I'm very happy and honored to be here for the first session of Catholic Charities Inside Look. For those of you who are not familiar with New Generation, we are an emergency and transitional housing provider for pregnant women and single mother and their children who are currently experiencing homelessness. Our mission is to provide a safe and family-oriented shelter for pregnant women and single mother and their children, helping them to become self-sufficient and helping them to create a pathway to permanent housing and to stability in the long term. But before I start talking more about our wonderful services and programs, I want to introduce all of you to a special guest that we have today. Her name is Julie Bailey. She will be sharing a little bit more about New Generation's history and successes throughout all these years. Julie is the daughter of New Generation's co-founder, Ruthie Ford, and Julie was part of our board for over 8 years since 2012, and the last 4 years she served as the president of the board. Julie was also a key component, and she played a key role during the transition for New Generation to become part of Catholic Charities. With no more to say, I'm gonna pass it on to Julie.
Thank you, Elsie. Can everyone hear me okay? No. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes, okay. Welcome everybody again, and I'm delighted to be able to be part of this first presentation with Catholic Charities. As Elsie mentioned, my mother, Ruthie Ford, was the co-founder of New Generation back in 1987, when my mother had spent many years of her life counseling pregnant women. And one of the biggest issues that she encountered with these women through counseling was the need for housing and also the need for additional education to become successful and to move their lives forward. They were very interested in learning more, but housing was a huge issue then. So back in 1987, my mother, again, co-founded New Generation and found this beautiful farmhouse where New Generation opened up its first doors. And the first person that moved into New Generation was a woman who was 9 months pregnant, living out of her car, and had her baby shortly thereafter. So she was the first story of many, many successful stories since 1987. And I'm very proud to be part of New Generation and to continue working with New Generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And we are very happy to have your support. Even though we are in a transition mode, we still have the support of Julie and some other board members, and we really appreciate that. So I'm going to start talking a little bit more about our services, specific programs that we currently have. And I usually like to divide our services in three main categories. We have emergency housing, which is mostly air shelter, and most of our services are focused on emergency housing, which is most of the rooms in this house. We also have transitional housing. For those of you who don't know, besides the emergency shelter rooms that we have here, we also have 2 transitional apartments. They are totally independent. One is in the first floor and the other one is in the second floor. So sometimes participants that are currently living here in emergency shelter are able to transition to these apartments, or sometimes we just bring someone from outside to live in one of the apartments, depending of the time, depending of the situation. We select the residents. And the third category is aftercare or permanent housing, which is an area that we are trying to grow more and more, because one of the key elements for people to not come back to shelter is to make sure that they have a support network and strong services right after they move out of emergency shelter. So we are really trying to make sure that once our residents move out of emergency shelter, they are provided with all the services, even though they may have their own apartment now. There is a lot that they need besides having a house. And sometimes they move to a house that is not the best condition, and they are looking for a better school system. They are looking for something more affordable. So the support continues to make sure that they stay in permanent housing, they retain that, and they don't come back to us or any other emergency shelter. So under emergency shelter, the services that we are currently providing are obviously the housing. We have 7 units. The rooms are usually shared by 2 moms and 2 children. Because of the size and the capacity of our house, we are not able to house mothers with children over 10 years old. Most of the mothers that come to us are either pregnant or they have infant or toddlers with them. And again, this is mostly because of the capacity of our house. So they receive the different services that they receive besides the housing. They have access to food 24/7. They can cook their meals here. They can also order. We really encourage them to cook their meals here. Sometimes they share. In the past, sometimes they select a resident every day and they cook dinner for everyone. That's something that is voluntary, it's up to them, but it's nice to see that, because we can see that the sense of community and the support among them. So besides the food, we also provide transportation for anything that they need. Mostly the transportation is provided for them to go grocery shopping, to go to medical appointments, to take their children when they have access to childcare, to take their children to childcare, and any other need that they may have that needed a car, because most of them, when they come to us, they don't have their own transportation. And that's one of the main goals for us, is to work with them. If they don't have a driver license, that they can work with us getting ready to take the test and to get their driver license. And we work with different community organizations. We are very lucky to have a really good network of partners. And one of these organizations has been helping our residents to get used cars. So far, 3 of our residents that left the programs were able to get used cars through this organization. So once they get their driver license, they really feel encouraged to go to the next step. So besides food, transportation, and housing, we focus a lot on individual case management. As we all know, working in social services, there is no a cookie cutter for everyone. So every woman that comes to us with their family are very different, with different needs. The reasons because they came to us are also very different. Many have faced financial hardship. That was their first pregnancy, and they were not able to sustain themselves and sustain their babies. They didn't have a strong support from their family or friends, and that's why they came to us. Some of them have struggled with substance abuse disorders. Some of them struggle with mental health illness. So the reasons they come to us are very different: domestic violence, sexual violence. So obviously, we can't have the same answer for everyone. The individual case management is very customized based on their needs. And the goals are also very different. Some of them are trying to get back to work right away. Some of them want to get their GED. So it is based on their different situation. So the individual case management is conducted once a week, sometimes more, because they live here and we are here up to 8-10 hours a day. So sometimes, even though there is a schedule and a structure session every week, we also are available to talk to them anytime that they need support. So besides the individual case management, we also provide parenting classes for all of them. The parenting classes are provided in an individual setting and also as a group setting. We have programming every Wednesday, and we try to provide different topics during this Wednesday. Sometimes they stay here and we do different topics with them, but sometimes they go out and they work with many of our partners. Additional to parenting classes, we also started recently financial counseling services. We were able to partner with Easter Bank and were able to open individual development accounts for many of our residents, and they don't have to be living here. We can also enroll some of the residents that have moved out of our shelter. They must be working and they must be saving on a monthly basis. The idea is that as soon as they come to us to start this program, we run their credit report, because as you all imagine, financial stability is one of the main goals for people to be able to remain in permanent housing. Sometimes we focus on giving them the security deposit quickly and giving the first month, last month rent, but all those things happen once, and after that, everything else disappears and people don't have any other support. We need to make sure that they develop some financial habits or that they recover those habits that they had before they struggled, to make sure that if they move to permanent housing or when they move to permanent housing, they stay there. So the financial counseling and financial literacy session have been extremely helpful, because that has allowed participants to look at their credit report and see what they need to do. Many of them come with a lot of debt, student loans, back rent payments, utility payments that they haven't been able to pay. And we start making goals. We start saying, okay, you're going to start paying this little by little, and that is going to improve your credit right away, because they are afraid, many of them are even afraid to look at their credit after so many years of struggling financially. So when they come to us and we look at their credit and we put this on perspective and say, it doesn't look that bad, and this is just one step at the time, it is really helpful for them to know, and the feeling, you can see that the feeling for them is very different. So besides the financial counseling, one of the main focus of our program is housing search. We really focus on making sure that if they come to us with some housing applications that they call the Portsmouth Housing Authority, that they call New Market, that they call Exeter, if they have applications that they follow up. And if they don't have those applications, that they make sure that they are filling out, and we helping them to submit those applications. So housing search is one of the priorities of our programs, to make sure that we love them, but we also want them to move out, right? They shouldn't be in emergency shelter for that long. So for transitional housing, the 2 apartments that I mentioned, we offer basically the same services, except for transportation. One of the main requirements for people to move to the transitional apartments and to live a little bit more independent is to be able to have access to their own transportation. They have access to the food here, but most of the time they don't have access to our food. They buy their own food, and also to be working, to be able to live in the apartments. But again, they access to the same services: individual case management, parenting classes, financial counseling, and referral to other services and applications for housing if they are actively working to find a different place than the apartment. And for Aftercare, this is one of the areas that we are very proud of. We recently received a new grant, and we were able to hire a new person that is, she's a housing specialist, and she's working 100% of her time with the people that have moved out of shelter for up to 12 months. This has been great, because before having her, we were really struggling to support them. We were, after work, we were driving to their houses, making sure that if they wanted to complete a different housing applications, that we did that. Childcare, some of them move out and they still don't have transportation. So we were trying to find different resources, but now having a person that is 100% focused on their needs is a huge plus, and really give us some relief to make sure that we do have someone out there making home visits and making sure that they have everything that they need. So those are the 3 main areas of services. I want to leave enough time for people to ask any questions. And I also want to pass it on to Julie in case that she wants to add anything else besides what I have just shared about our services.
I think I'm set, Elsie. Thank you.
Awesome. We have a lot of great questions already. So thanks to those who submitted. Again, one final reminder, if you have questions, feel free to utilize the chat function here. We have a question from Sally, Elsie. It is, how are mental health substance use disorder needs met? And do you accept mothers on medication assisted treatment for opioid use disorders?
Yes, thank you for the question. We do accept mothers and pregnant women that are currently under medication or any treatment assisted program. We partner with Hope on Heaven Hill. Actually, many of the residents that come to us are referred after they complete the residential program at Hope on Heaven Hill. Hope on Heaven Hill also has an outpatient program. So for those mothers and pregnant women that need those services, we work very close with them. They are referred to them. We also have our own system. When they come to us and the medication is stored always in a locked place, and the staff is the only one that has access to that medication, we provide that at the time that the resident needs to take their medication, and we do pill counting on a weekly basis. And when they go out to visit their families and they come back, we do pill counting again. But yes, something that I was mentioning in the beginning is the strong network of services and partnerships that we have with, and that has been, because we don't have it all here, right? And we have very limited staff, and we can specialize on everything. So we do partner with other providers that specialize on those services.
Awesome, great. Thank you, Sally, for the question. We have two questions from two separate Karens. So I'll start with the first one here. Do you offer services to pregnant moms under the age of 18? And if not, do you know who may?
That has been always a big challenge in this area. And I'm still getting familiar. I started with New Generation in the beginning of February, and that's one of the things that I have seen as a big limitation. We don't house pregnant women or mothers under the age of 18. When we get these cases, we usually refer them to the state because none of the other providers that we work with, Hope on Heaven Hill, Lydia's House of Hope, or any other that I know in this area provides housing for underage pregnant women or mothers. So we usually relied on the state for them to help funding housing for these individuals.
Great, thank you, Karen, for the question. The other one is from another Karen, is how do you make referrals to the program?
So how do you refer people into our program, or how do we refer people out of the program?
I would start with the first one.
Okay, so we have a waiting list, and every time that we have something available, we call the wait list. But as I was mentioning earlier, we also get a lot of referrals from Hope on Heaven Hill. Once mothers, pregnant women complete the residential program, they are referred to us. And we work with other providers that if they don't have capacity, they refer the families to us. And in terms of moving people out, we have different sources. And again, recently, the network of resources has been growing more and more, and this is great. So we are part of the continuum of care for the state of New Hampshire. And the continuum of care, for those of you who don't know, is a great resource, it's a great network of different providers managed by the state of New Hampshire, the Department of Health and Human Services. And they are always looking for housing opportunities. They have a list, which include all the people that are currently in emergency shelter across the state. And every time that they have a spot available, they call us based on the wait list, or they let us know if any of our residents are available. We also work very close with housing authorities and making sure that if there are vouchers available, that they let us know, especially Newmarket and Portsmouth, and also Exeter. So that's how we refer. In terms of other providers and other services, throughout the years, we have been able to establish strong partnerships with many providers in the area. So as I was mentioning, for some of the services that we are not able to provide, or we don't specialize, we usually refer them to these providers.
Great. Thank you, Karen, for the question. We have another one from Allie. Do you work with methadone for MAT?
We currently don't. And this is something that we are definitely exploring to make sure that we are able to serve in a more comprehensive way based on the needs of all the residents that come here.
Great. Just one final reminder, if you have questions, type it into the chat. We do have a couple that were submitted prior. Elsie, this one talks about the acquisition from Catholic Charities New Hampshire. Can you talk about how that impacts the program, what changes may be in store for it, and how clients could potentially be able to access expanded or new types of services?
Yes, of course. Having the support of Catholic Charities is a big plus for us. Now, as a new generation, as an agency, we have access to very structured and strong systems for HR, for IT, for development, for accounting services and systems that we didn't have before. And that has allowed us to start focusing more on the big picture and the direct services. So before we all were wearing so many hats. We still are, but not as many as before. So I think that this is a huge plus for us just to have Catholic Charities. They have our back, and anything that we need and establish, and especially in terms of development, it has been a huge plus. And of course, this impacts directly and indirectly the services and our residents, because as I said, we have more time to focus on them. We have more time to develop programs and to improve our services. Also, in terms of partnerships and other services that are offered throughout the network of Catholic Charities, we have already started to connect with Liberty House, Our Place, which are organizations and programs that offer similar services and serve very similar target populations, to see how we can collaborate, especially with Our Place. So that has been very positive, that in less than a month, we have been able to connect with them and start talking about, okay, how we can better serve the target populations that we both are working with.
Great. I think we have time for two more questions here. I have another one from Sally here. She asked, is there some payment system such as Medicaid accepted?
No, we don't. I said Medicaid. However, something that I forgot to mention is that residents, either for emergency or transitional housing, are required to pay rent. They pay 30% of their income if they are working. If they are not working, they have to pay 30% of their public benefits. And in that case, the rent payment is sent to us directly by the state.
Excellent. Elsie, can you talk about how the program is funded? And obviously donor contributions do play a part in that. So can you talk a little bit about the impact that they can have on New Generation itself and those mothers and children that you work with?
Yes, of course. Something that has been very, especially when I came in the beginning of the year, is that looking at the funding streams from last year, everything looked very different, as many things looked in 2020, right? Everything was so different and unexpected. So I think that if we look at our funding streams from the last year, we can say that's probably what is traditional. For example, last year, 65% of our funding came through grants, compared to in the past, we usually had like 40% of our, prior to 2020, usually 40% of our funding and our budget came through state grants. And it went to 60% because we were able to apply for many COVID-19 related grants. But again, this is usually only for 40%. Another thing that was highly affected is fundraising events. Last year, fundraising event and donations constituted only 20% of our income. In the past, that has been up to 47, 50% of our income. But last year, we were not able to have our gala, which was a significant impact. But again, it was locally, it was compensated by all the grants that we got because of COVID-19. So I would say in a regular year, usually we have 40% grants, 47% up to 50% donations and fundraising events or fundraising efforts. and the rest is made up of the residents' rent payments and also our tree shop, which generates close to 9 to 10% of our income on a yearly basis.
Great, awesome. So we are close to the 30-minute mark. I want to keep things short and sweet here. So it doesn't seem like we have any additional questions at this point in time. So what I will do, Veronica actually mentioned that she asked about the recording. So we will send a recording of this program in case you missed some pieces over to you via email this afternoon.
Sorry, Michael, I just want to, if we have a couple, if we have just 1 minute, because I do want to
absolutely. Go ahead.
I just want to add something. I mentioned the tree shop. So if any of you is in the area, please come visit us. The tree shop is a beautiful place. It's a place where you come and you really feel the sense of community and support. We get donations, beautiful donations on a daily basis that we are able to sell and support our shelter. So if you are in the area, please come visit us. We'll give you a discount. So stop by. It's a 9 Tide Mill Road. And again, we have beautiful items, and very soon we'll be opening a furniture barn. So for more information, just reach out to me.
And I love that thrift shop. It's pretty incredible. So something for everyone. Okay, well, with that, thank you so much to everyone for your time here. On your screen, you should see some information in case you want to go to New Generation's website. Elsie's email address is here as well. We will be doing additional CCNH Inside Looks in the coming weeks with more of our programs. So definitely keep your eyes on your email and our social media for more information with that. Again, thank you so much for your time today. We will send a recording of this shortly to your inbox. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.